80% of serious claims involve body stressing. So I guess that's things like injuries caused to the body, falls, slips, and trips. So that's another big one. This is a bit brutal, but being hit by objects is another one.
Fortunately, that doesn't happen in financial services, or sorry, shouldn't happen in financial services,
hope
but
not.
yeah.
And mental stress.
Yeah. And it's really interesting, sometimes we get people saying, well, there's workplace schemes out there. I don't need personal insurance. I don't need insurance for myself because I'm covered by workplace. And it's, and we often talk about, there are things that won't ever be covered under these stats that we're talking about is things like cancers. If you have cancer, that's never going to be a workplace
it's not linked to your work.
Injury.
Yeah.
And mental health, it is, we've done deep dives on how much harder it is getting. It's not, just generalized stress, anxiety. It still will cover if there's significant bullying in the workplace. Yeah. You cannot claim on mental health through a workplace scheme in Victoria and New South Wales, I believe, if you are ongoing stress or anxiety within the workplace because of overwork. They don't actually recognise that. Even if it is you're working 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, it's going to be very difficult to claim on mental health for those situations. Hey there, thanks for watching another deep dive. So today's episode, we are going to be talking about a report that Safe Work Australia did. It's Safer, Healthier, Wealthier. And so today I got Kat, one of our advisors. Thanks for joining us.
All good, all good.
So I guess let's just start on, why did you pick this topic for a deep dive?
Yeah, I picked it because I found it really interesting, some of the stats that are in there. It compares, it's essentially talking about what causes people to have to take time off of work, either through illness or injury. So it's got some really interesting stats on what those different types of injuries and illnesses are, how long people are taking off of work, how it differs between different industries, also how it differs between gender and age as well. So I just found it really interesting to talk about, given that we deal with helping people with insurances and protecting from the financial risk of illness and injuries. So yeah, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about.
Yeah, cool. And, obviously illnesses, injuries, insurance does have a big play with these types of covers. And we've done a deep dive on mental health and work covers or workplace compensation schemes and how mental health is being dialed back on, the ability to claim on that. So yeah, it is really interesting to have a topic on. So let's start talking about the report. What are the worst hit industries? Are we safe working in financial services, or are we one of the worst?
Okay, so that's actually kind of interesting. So in terms of time taken off work, this is the median time lost. So for financial and insurance services, it was 15.2 weeks, which is actually the longest of any industry.
Wow. Okay, so we're taking time off. Is it
More.
because we know the insurance industry well enough where
Possibly.
we're gaming this system? I don't know. That's not what Safe Work is saying. But
No.
But okay, 15.2 weeks is the average time off work for a workplace
For
injury.
finance and insurance services specifically.
Yeah,
So
cool.
they had the longest one. So with people in financial and insurance services, they'll most likely be white-collar workers. So it's not due to injuries like it would be with more manual operations, but it's probably due to mental health reasons, cancers, or other major illnesses. Just as a comparison to some other industries, so with construction, which is probably the first one that people would think about, it's 8.5 weeks. That's the median time. Healthcare is 7.2 weeks. So I take it that would include both doctors and nurses as well.
Yeah, all allied health.
Yeah. And then mining, another very physically intensive job, 10.8 weeks.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And talk to me about does the report talk about the propensity, likelihood of a claiming within industries?
No, it doesn't talk about likelihood.
Okay.
That would be an interesting stat to go into though.
And the report, do they talk about all time off work, or is it just injuries in the workplace?
Just injuries in the workplace.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So what are the most serious claims that are being paid out?
Yeah. So 80% of serious claims. Now this was just summarizing the stats, but 80% of serious claims involve body stressing. So I guess that's things like injuries caused to the body, falls, slips, and trips. So that's another big one. This is a bit brutal, but being hit by objects is another one.
Fortunately, that doesn't happen in financial services, or sorry, shouldn't happen in financial services.
Hope
but
not.
yeah.
And mental stress.
Yeah. it's really interesting, sometimes we get people saying, well, there's workplace schemes out there. I don't need personal insurance. I don't need insurance for myself because I'm covered by workplace. And it's, and we often talk about, there are things that won't ever be covered under these stats that we're talking about is things like cancers. If you have cancer, that's never going to be a workplace
not linked to your
injury.
Work. Yeah.
And mental health, it is, we've done deep dives on how much harder it is getting. It's not, just generalized stress, anxiety. It still will cover if there's significant bullying in the workplace. Yeah. You cannot claim on mental health through a workplace scheme in Victoria and New South Wales, I believe, if you are ongoing stress or anxiety within the workplace because of overwork. They don't actually recognize that. Even if it is you're working 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, it's going to be very difficult to claim on mental health for those situations. So, how does time off work for mental health claims compared to other injuries? Is that length, the time off work longer or shorter?
In terms of mental health claims, they actually now account for 11% of all serious workers' compensation claims. And the median time that's been taken off of work due to mental health reasons is actually 5 times longer than other injuries, which I thought was crazy. So some quick stats here. So in the 2023 financial year, because that's when this report was taking the stats from, there were over 139,000 mental health claims. And just to kind of talk about that a bit more, so at Skye, a lot of our clients are younger, they're in their 30s, 20s, and a lot of these mental health claims would be for people that are in service or knowledge-based roles, so white-collar roles. Yeah, they're a lot more exposed to stress and overwork and things like that. So in terms of taking time off work, the median time lost from mental health condition serious claims, so this was back in the 2022 financial year, the median time was 37 working weeks. So that's almost a whole year of people taking time off work due to mental health reasons. And that's more than 5 times the median time loss across all serious claims.
Yeah, and it is really interesting. And without any hard data on this, I will posit some thoughts. So, you think about workplace compensation schemes is you've got to prove it was a workplace injury. So the barrier to get that claim is actually pretty difficult. And proving a mental health claim that was caused solely by the workplace
and not something else
is difficult, is going to be extremely difficult. Yeah. So unlike private, individual covers that, that we help people set up with, the insurance company, yes, they would ideally not like to pay out on mental health claims because it's costing them heaps of money. But the sooner they can start paying someone to get healthy and back to full health, back to full work, the better it is. We've had clients who have had claimed not on mental health, but other conditions that it's, like chronic fatigue. And I've made a case with the insurer, hey, it's better that this client is on claim as soon as possible so that we can get back to full health so, they can get back to work properly because it means you're going to be paying for, less
exactly.
of it.
Yeah.
Things like workers' compensation schemes, often it caps out at a certain amount of years and it dials down in terms of the replacement ratios. I was talking to another client who is going through a workers' compensation scheme for mental health and they're saying, well, look, it doesn't cover my overtime, doesn't cover, all these extra benefits. I'm only really covering 40% of my actual pre-disability salary through these workers' compensation schemes. And so, there are some of these tricky nuances with these workers' compensation schemes and it only lasts for 2 years. So if he's off work for longer than that, then he doesn't get paid after more. 2 years. So, these schemes, workers' compensation schemes, they want to not being negative, but they want to deny a claim as quick as possible because they don't want the workplace to be paying for it. Yeah. The workplace wants to deny the claim as long as possible because their work cover expenses go up every year if there is a claim. So there is all of these mechanisms that says that we're going to decline as quick as possible. But for individual cover, yes, they don't want to pay out. But if it's a legitimate claim, getting the client on claim sooner actually, has a lessening impact on their long-term claims of their business. So it is interesting thinking about those two, differences between those policies.
Yeah, definitely.
And also why, being, solely relying on workplace, cover is a risk and why, we personally don't recommend it.
Yeah. I actually didn't know that you were limited to 40%. of your income.
Well, yeah. So it was limited to a percentage of their base income, but because they were in a mining environment, they get like overtime and bonus. Like there's all these extra benefits that for someone like us, our base rate makes up the majority of our income, and so therefore these workers' compensation schemes wouldn't negatively impact us as much.
Yeah.
But if you are in allied health, there's often those overtimes and those extra loadings and all of these things that you won't get covered for under some workers' compensation schemes. And again, it's state by state. It is very different depending on that. All right, the next question is they say men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Men and women are different, and it reflects in these claim stats. So talk to me about the differences between those claims experiences.
Yeah, awesome. So in terms of serious claims, for women, they actually have a higher median time loss, so it's 7.6 weeks, than men, which is 7 weeks.
So, sorry, women are 7.6 weeks and men are 7. Yeah, much of a muchness. It's half a week. It's 3 days of work.
Still something.
It is an
average.
Yeah.
And also, women are having more time lost, but in terms of the actual compensation paid, men get a higher amount of compensation. So the median compensation paid to men, so they get 2,800 more, which is 22.3% greater. So the amount was 15,600 is the average compensation, compared to women is 12,700.
It's cool. That's what we call the gender pay gap.
I was going to say it seems like the gender pay gap. Yeah, that's a bit unfair.
Pretty much bang on, similar to the gender pay gap, and so that. To me, makes sense. Let's try steer clear of being too political.
Yeah.
But I've been political in the past, and I've got 3 daughters, and so I am a big believer in pay parity. But this is probably why that percentage is different, because of the gender pay gap. Even though there's more time off work, statistically paid less, so you're going to get actual lower compensations.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? Like, is there any in the data? Does it talk about any types of claims?
Yes, it does. So in terms of the nature of work-related injury and illness, so with women, most of their work-related injuries and illness are actually due to mental health conditions. So this was 15% compared to 7.4% for men. So that's double.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah. And then men, obviously, have a higher share of work-related injury or illness accounted for by wounds, lacerations, amputations, and internal organ damage.
I know we're not allowed to say, I know we're not allowed to be rude about different genders, but guys are just idiots. That's why we're getting lacerated at work. But again, we're not allowed to say that. But I said it. I guess because I'm a guy, I can say it. Maybe
you can say that.
Maybe I can say we are idiots if I collectively call myself an idiot. But anyway.
But yeah, in terms of the numbers, so 18.3% for men compared to 9.7% for women. So almost double there.
And look, again, it's, yes, we're idiots, but on top of that, it's the type of work, the differences between the type of work.
Yeah. So men are more likely to be in those more labor-intensive roles than women. So that does account for those higher numbers.
Any other differences between men and women?
They were the main ones. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Now, what is it costing us? We all pay money. We all pay. I mean, as an employer, we've got WorkSafe that we pay for, but what is it costing businesses or the economy?
Yeah. So the report actually uncovered if workplace injury and illness was completely eliminated, then Australia's economy could grow by $28.6 billion annually.
Oh, okay. Do you know how they get to that number?
Not sure exactly.
Is it just like lost productivity? Maybe?
I'd say it is due to lost productivity, because what they're saying is you would have 185,500 more jobs if there was no more illnesses and injury. And you would also end up having average wage increases of 1.3%. So it seems like it's a lot to do with productivity.
That's interesting. I wonder, again, without going into the report, I wonder if they've minused the amount of allied health would be getting a lion's share of revenue for these workplace injuries, because if you're injured at work, you get physio paid for, all these extra things that go into the economy. I wonder if it's actually it's $50 billion worth of, lost productivity minus, whatever, I can do math, maybe $22 billion worth of revenue generated through those industries.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, that's interesting. And I did some research. I did my own research.
Yeah.
So I wanted to look at what is the actual claim statistics on individual cover. So whether it's through super funds or through through a financial advisor. So the number is there are 81,915 claims in the last 12 months up until December 24. That is going through an insurance company. So
That's a lot.
as I said, either through super funds or through advice policies. Yeah, and a huge amount of that is, 17,000 claims for life insurance. Now, there is a stat in there, a fun stat in there, not fun because we're talking about death.
Yeah.
So, whoops. I misspeak sometimes. I misspeak a lot of times. Maybe that was one. So there is an unfortunate stat in there about life insurance and about deaths.
Yes.
And it did talk about how many deaths there are in the workplace. And what do you have that number?
Yeah, so 200 workers lost their lives to work-related traumatic injuries in 2023, which is slightly above the 5-year average of 191. So it is increasing.
So 191, but now 200.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we look at life insurance providers are paying out 17,051,000 claims. So 17,051. Yeah, claims. Yeah, I said that right. I said it wrong the first time. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
17,000 claims a year is going. And, this isn't like, old age claims. People are cancelling their cover before that. This is, dying when you have a life insurance policy.
Yes.
And so, when we have these conversations with clients about, actually, I don't really need it. I got workplace cover. Yes, I'm sure we can talk about income protection and disability and how much that is, which actually is significant. Income protection and disability make up almost 60,000 claims, just those two policies alone. So I'm talking life insurance, which is a much smaller segment.
Yeah.
But 60,000 in a year for those two policies is a big number.
Yeah.
But life insurance alone, if nothing else, if you have dependents, if you have debt, if you have anything, getting your own insurance is super important and making sure that we still have it, because the likelihood of you dying at work, Kat, is very, very low.
Yes.
And hopefully non-existent in our work, but
I hope so.
yeah, but is incredibly low for the for everyone, even in high-risk occupations.
Yeah.
All right, is there anything else that we haven't touched on that's either super interesting in the report?
Yes. So in terms of the time lost due to illness or injury, so the report does go into some stats around that, and I've kind of wanted to talk about it because with income protection insurances, you can have different waiting periods. So I thought it'd be interesting to have a look at that stat a bit more. So the actual median time lost from work-related illnesses and injuries has been increasing over time. So they said over the past 10 years, the median time lost for serious claims was 7.2 weeks. So 7.2 weeks, that's less than 2 months. If you would only really be able to make a claim if you had income protection with a 30-day waiting period. And even then, with a 30-day waiting period, insurers pay at the end of the month. You probably wouldn't get your first payment until day 60. So that's something to keep in mind. But in terms of the median time loss from work-related illnesses and injuries, and this is looking at a significant period of time lost, at least 13 weeks, this has gone from 13.4% in the 2013 financial year, so more than 10 years ago. So that's gone from 13.4% to 21.3% in the 2022 financial year. So the median time lost from work-related illnesses and injuries, that's at least 13 weeks or more, has increased from 2013 financial year up until the 2022 financial year.
So we're getting longer and longer. We're having longer time off work. Yeah. And that's actually interesting. You talked about that average time off work being 7.2. Did I get that? 7.2?
Yep.
And, I again, looking back to income protection claims, this number I got from APRA is 34,500 claims, finalised claims. This is not like claims submitted. This is finalised claims.
Actually accepted.
And that's 35,000, or just under 35,000 people who have gone longer than that waiting period. So most policies within super would be 90 days off.
Yeah.
Most advice policies maybe 30 days, maybe 90 days, depending on what's suitable. So all of these workplace injuries, yes, they need to be in the workplace and you're back at work. but there is 34,000 claims or 34,500 claims a year that is going beyond that does need these, personal insurance covers to make sure we're covering ourselves properly.
Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting stat. So it's essentially 1 of 5 accepted workplace claims is 13 weeks or longer. But it actually does make 3/4 of total compensation payments, which kind of, I guess, goes along with some of those long-term income protection claims with those stats as well.
So 1 in 5. So 20% of people are going longer than 13 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah, but it costs...
It's 75% of total
75%.
compensation payments.
And this is, again, I'll get on my high horse, and I always will get on my high horse. Like these ideas that I only need a 2-year income protection policy is, in personal insurance, the numbers are even greater in terms of the amount of people going beyond 2 years is very few and far between.
Yeah.
But the amount of cost is 70 to 80% of the total amount of sums that are going out for income protection is for that long-term claim. And so, that's why I'm a big believer in making sure we have long-term income protection. If for young people, if you're 60, 55, whatever,
don't need as long.
You may not need that longer time period.
Yeah.
But if you're young, and I'll keep myself in that bracket. I'm sub 40. Don't laugh, Pete. I'm still young. Far out. I'm the old guy here, unfortunately. Look, I'm the idiot who's wearing a backwards cap and thinking he's young still. So I know I'm not young. But for me, I've still got 25 years left if I could never work again, and I've got an age 65 policy.
Yeah.
I want an income protection for another 25 years. 2 years or 5 years is not good enough.
No, not at all. No, I've got that too. Yeah.
All right. Anything else that we haven't touched on?
I think that is it.
All right. Awesome. This has been a good deep dive. Thank you very much for preparing all of this and running us through these stats. As I said at the start, there is a link to this report in the description. There are other videos, other deep dives on the screen now. If you want to geek out on insurance stuff, check them out. Thanks heaps for watching. We'll catch you next time.